What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Sector for Nerds, and welcome back to another episode of Star Wars: The Clone Wars Retro Discussions. Today we're here to talk about Season 4, Episode 14, A Friend in Need. This episode was directed by Dave Filoni and written by Christian Taylor. The cookie for this episode: friendship shows us who we really are. Now, before we begin, you guys, make sure you guys like this video and subscribe to the channel. Plenty of great content every single week, so you guys definitely don't want to miss out on any of it. I believe by the time that this video goes out, we should be in the thick of it when it comes to reviewing the new Daredevil series. Earlier viewers of the channel know you used to cover a lot of Marvel content back in the day, and that has kind of since stopped as I've kind of just haven't been the biggest fan of the MCU over these last few years. But I tell you what, though, like this Daredevil series, there's a lot of intrigue and a lot of hype around, especially since, like, coming from me, who was a massive fan of the original Daredevil series on Netflix. So hopefully I'll have great things to say about it. And, you know, if it's not great, then yeah, I'm definitely going to call it out for not being good. But anyway, we'll have that going out. And then we've got Andor coming up pretty soon too. So we'll be making videos on that series. So plenty of great content every single week here, you guys. You definitely don't want to miss out on any of it. This episode, you guys, I'm really excited to get into today because I keep saying it, but like this is the last official standalone episode of the Clone Wars. Like if you think about the rest of the episodes, whether it be in this season, season 5, season 6, season 7, they're all a part of these arcs. So really, like, this is it. And I'm very excited to get into it, you guys, because honestly, like, low key, I do think that this is a good episode for sure. But first up, you guys, I want to make sure I don't forget intro guy this week, because I know a couple weeks ago when I was with DJ, I ended up forgetting to have him do the intro. So I got to make sure that I don't do that again. Intro guy, before I say any more, take it away. Do your thing. Divided by war. In an effort to end the galactic conflict, the first ever sanctioned meeting between the Republic and the Separatists and Mandalore is chosen as neutral ground for these precarious meetings. Tensions run high as many hope for these important negotiations. Thank you, intro guy. Yeah, this is kind of a big deal at the start, right? Like peace negotiations between the Republic and the Separatists, an effort to try and stop the war? I'll say it this much, it feels like the Republic representatives were very much for the idea of stopping the war, but it felt like all the separatist guys, like they weren't really too thrilled about it. I feel like mostly though is they probably still wanted to be referred to as like independent systems and not a part of the Republic, right? But there is someone who does have something to say about the legitimacy of the Separatists, and that's Lux Bonteri. Now, for those who don't remember him, remember when Padme and Ahsoka went to Raxus in Season 3 to do, like, the unofficial peace negotiations there, right? To try and end the conflict between the Republic and the Separatists there. And Dooku had said in the episode following that, like, the Republic forces let out a barbaric attack against the people, and among those deaths was Senator Mina Bonteri. But unfortunately, as per usual with Dooku, tends to lie. Because what we hear from when it comes to Lux is his mother was murdered by Count Dooku himself in cold blood. Because of course he did. Ahsoka was happy to see him though. Like, she was all smile and joyful, very giddy, like a teenage girl when she sees a cute boy, you know, like that kind of excitement. And so Ahsoka has to go and save Lux. But before that, Lux, he's on the Separatist ship, and he, like, clicks on some device or whatever when he's talking with Dooku. We later find out that it was a way of, like, tracking him, and we'll get to that. Luckily, Ahsoka comes in to save the day, but unfortunately in doing so, they kind of raise alarm. Commando droids start chasing after him. Senate commandos then kind of cover their escape, but then it begs the question, was that the only Republic ship there? Like, if it was, those were the two that just got away on it. How are all the Senate commandos going to get off-world? They have a chat with Anakin via hologram, and they discuss the idea of, like, bringing Bonteri to Coruscant, giving him amnesty, all that stuff. But then he points a blaster at Ahsoka, and he's like, I can't go with you, Ahsoka, I have a plan. Ahsoka just immediately takes the blasters, like, shooting me is not going to be a part of that plan. Yeah, I mean, fair enough. He said he's been in contact with a group on Karlak that's allied with his cause, and that's to kill Dooku. And Ahsoka's like, well, your plan hasn't really been thought out that well, Lux. Like, without me, how are you going to escape those droids? And he uses, like, this, it was kind of like a taser that just, like, stunned her, right? And he puts her in the seat down, and R2, you know, comes into the room. But Lux plays it off like, oh, Ahsoka's just, like, super tired. She probably just needs to sleep it off. So then we next get to them on this planet, right? With a lot of snow. It's a very snowy planet. And Ahsoka's like, all right, where are my lightsabers? Like, all right, I'm gonna go have a chat with Lux. She gets out there to confront him, and Lux just goes, you should have stayed on the ship. And from the skies, flying down via jetpacks, is a bunch of Death Watch soldiers.
Lux, where are we, and what did you do with my lightsabers?
You should have stayed on the ship.
Hey, kid. You're late.
Death Watch.
It is about damn time. The biggest question I had coming out of season 2 of the Clone Wars is like, I want to see more Death Watch. I want to see more of these guys. I want to see more of Mandalore. Well, we got more of Mandalore in season 3. Where the heck is Death Watch? Took them 2 whole seasons, but we finally got back to them. And there's a female, the figure of this one, and, the voice, obviously. I'm like, oh, okay, the females have different armor. That's cool. Probably just some random Mandalorian that we're probably never going to see again and is not going to have any importance when it comes going forward in the history of Star Wars. Of course, I'm talking about Bo Katan here. It's so interesting to me, like, if we're going to talk about Bo Katan for a second, like, because she plays a very, like, minimal role in this episode. The more that time goes on, I feel like the more important Bo Katan's character becomes, like, whether it be through the rest of Clone Wars, then going into Rebels, then in The Mandalorian, and then, you look at Mandalorian Season 3, she's, like, the main character of the whole freaking thing. Her stock in this franchise just, like, kept, like, growing and growing in terms of the level of importance that she played, whether it be for better or worse. And the first big thing that Bo does in this episode is she slaps Ahsoka in the butt. Okay, R2, you see that Ahsoka is surrounded by a bunch of people that hate the Jedi. Stop flashing her lightsabers out in the open. Poor R2 just comes by with the lightsabers like, Ahsoka, I found your lightsabers. They're right here. Oh, all right, I'm gonna put them away. Like, let's not flash those in front of, like, one of the Jedi's biggest enemies right now. Now that I think about it, there's a lot of people that hate the Jedi in the galaxy right now. Not just, like, the Separatists, but when you look at the Zygerians, they hate the Jedi. The Mandalorians hate the Jedi. Everyone's got all these wars against the Jedi and stuff, and it's like, oh, man. Not a popular people, are they? But they get to this camp, they see, these poor droids are being shot at for target practice. Lux and Ahsoka are told to wait inside this tent. Lux explains his little tracking device that he has on Dooku. Now, I will say, the other big question that I had, I remember first time going into this episode, I was like, well, wait a minute. Lux said that the people he was meeting with have the same intent as he does to kill Dooku, but the last time that we saw the Mandalorians, they were aligned with Dooku. Ahsoka starts, like, venting out all these frustrations to Lux and, like, all right, these Death Watch guys, they're murderers. You don't know what you're doing. They're going to destroy us, blah, blah, blah. And right as Vizsla walks into the room and Lux sees it coming, he just pulls Ahsoka in for a good old smooch on the lips.
The Death Watch are murderers, sworn to destroy Jedi. You don't know what you're doing. This...
Am I interrupting something?
No, of course not. We were just,
It's time to talk business. Tell your woman to leave us.
And Vizsla takes off his helmet and he's like, it's time to talk business. 2 worthy things of note here when it comes to Vizsla's appearance. A, he's got no hair anymore. And 2, he's got a scar on his face. And so Ahsoka leaves the tent as ordered by Vizsla, and Vizsla wants that information that Lux has, that tracking device. Lux, I feel like in that moment, kind of takes what Ahsoka says to heart, like, all right, are these guys really to be trusted? Like, how am I going to know that you're going to use it correctly? And Vizsla's like, don't mess with me, boy. You see this scar right here? That was a parting gift from Count Dooku. Okay, well, we got our answer to that question then. He goes, if you question my resolve to destroy him again, I will give you one that's just like it. He's like, okay, well, here's the device. And Vizsla's like, all right, there we go. That was painless, wasn't it? Also, shout out to Jon Favreau, obviously returning to reprise his role as the voice of Pre Vizsla. R2 is tasked with reassembling the droids for target practice. Please reassemble us. And they all started, like, walking toward him, like zombie style. Ahsoka meets a bunch of females. She finds out that the villagers were kidnapped from a place nearby. There are people that trust easily, and so they were obviously betrayed. One of the Mandalorians walks in and tells them to prepare the food. So it's like, okay, well, I kind of get the picture of what's going on here. We just had an entire arc about slavery, and I feel like that is kind of bleeding through into this episode, right? People are being forced to do stuff against their will. I love when they're handing out food, and Ahsoka walks past Lux, and she's like, hungry? Careful not to choke on your stupidity. But there is a man who is not happy in all of this, and that is Chieftain Peter. Peter, I guess he's like the chief of the village that we were just talking about. And he says, like, you've taken our food, our women, and you've threatened us for too long. You are no longer welcome here. Vizsla's like, okay, well, if our president isn't welcome then, we'll make ready to leave. And you can kind of tell, like, everyone's got, like, you know, everyone that's eaten or whatever, they have all the, like, these evil smiles on their faces and stuff. And even Vizsla does too, and he's like, yep, we'll leave sunrise tomorrow. You have my word. I'm like, yeah, I don't think that's gonna happen. Lux sits there like, see, these guys aren't as bad as you make them out to be. Look at that. Oh, poor Lux. And even Ahsoka's like, yeah, something's not right about this. So the next day comes, and the chief's like, we're very grateful for your understanding. Like, he's just sitting there talking with Vizsla. And then just from the skies, there's like at least a dozen Mandalorians that just descend on top of all these buildings. And I'm like, yeah, something tells me this isn't going to end well. Vizsla's like, hey, I'm a man of my word. Here's your granddaughter back, who is the girl that Ahsoka was talking with. Let me see if I wrote down her name at all. Tryla, that's her name. Vizsla says, I'm a man of my word. Here's your granddaughter back, as promised. And he pulls out the darksaber and kills the girl right in front of her grandfather. Bro, come on, Vizsla. Why'd it have to be like that, man? And Vizsla's just like, kill them all. And the Death Watch just start burning this freaking village, and they're, you know, murdering everyone. And even Lux is sat there like, whoa, wait a second. What are y'all doing right now? And Vizsla's like, never let the weak tell you what to do. Welcome to Death Watch.
Boy, what are you doing?
Never let the weak tell you what to do. Welcome to Death Watch.
And Ahsoka is sitting there like, all right, I can't let this go on anymore. She starts taking on the Death Watch soldiers, but very quickly the numbers game gets to her. And just kind of like based off of her skill alone, Vizsla kind of figures out like, you know what? I think we got ourselves a Jedi right here. And they end up dragging her back to camp. Just like she doesn't have her coat on anymore. She's just being dragged through all this snow. And who knows how far away the camp was. Like, that's gotta suck. Meanwhile, R2's repaired all these droids, so R2, you know, helping out his fellow buddies. And we gotta give a shout out to R2, because R2 is like a main reason why our heroes get saved in this episode. See, this is the kind of stuff where like R2 being in it is cool. You know, like we talked about earlier in the season, right? Like those 2 episodes with R2 and 3PO, them going on these random adventures. Like it was just kind of boring. Here, R2 gets to like still stand out and be the hero. So it works. Because R2, he gets his fellow droids into position. He wants them to, you know, help save his friends. And so R2 kind of like peeks his way through the tent. Meanwhile, Vizsla's sitting there like, all right, Lux Bonteri, this isn't good. This is not good at all. Like, I ask you to join us, and in return, you bring a Jedi into our camp. And Lux is like, look, she wasn't meant to be here. Please let her go. Vizsla refuses. And Lux goes, you know, I thought you guys had honor, but you're just murderers, no better than Dooku. And Vizsla's like, well, you call us murderers, yet it was your own lust for revenge that made you seek us out. And Bonteri's like, look, I wanted justice for my mother's death. Vizsla responds, okay, and yeah, you're gonna have it, but the Jedi are no different from Dooku. That's in Vizsla's mind, of course. And this one is gonna pay in part for their crimes against Mandalore. I'm like, Vizsla, no, don't do it. She got nothing to do with it. Hey, she wasn't there during the old wars and stuff. Don't do this. Don't do this, Vizsla. Don't kill her. He goes, so you see, it's not murder at all. It's like you said, it's justice. And just right on cue, R2 just creates a scene, creates a smoke screen. Lux pushes Vizsla out of the way. And Ahsoka gets handed her lightsabers by R2. And in probably, I would say probably Ahsoka's most badass moment in the entire show, takes her lightsabers, frees herself by doing this giant 360 spin, and cuts the throats of 4 Mandalorians with her sabers. That was crazy.
Thanks, buddy.
The Jedi is mine.
Lux, get to the ship.
And then what followed that was a saber battle between her and Pre Vizsla. We get to see the darksaber in action again, which is cool. And we saw Pre Vizsla take on Obi-Wan Kenobi the last time that we saw him too, so we know that he's a capable warrior. Ahsoka gets kicked out of the tent by Vizsla, and all the Mandalorians come rushing out of the tent. kind of caught off guard by all the droids there, and Ahsoka's like, okay, well, here we go. It's not clones, but we're doing this. She continues to battle Vizsla. The Mandalorians pretty quickly are taking out the droids, right? It's not like they're putting up that much of a fight. The music during this scene as well is very awesome, so shout out to Kevin Kiner. But eventually the fight kind of ends when Ahsoka cuts Vizsla's jetpack.
Not bad, Jedi.
I didn't miss.
Ahsoka gets to fight Bo for like a quick moment, and so they're able to get away. They get on their ship, but Ahsoka's like, wait, what do you mean the escape pod has been activated? Oh crap, okay, R2, hang on, the ship's yours, and she kind of realizes what's going on. And Lux basically says, look, I can't go with you, Ahsoka, like, you know this. And Ahsoka says, look, but we can try to change things together. She was basically saying without saying it that she liked him, right? And Lux is like, don't worry, we'll meet again. And, you know, they kind of do the thing, like, they both put their hands on the doorway. Like, you could tell that Ahsoka was very sad and depressed that he was leaving like that. I always kind of was curious about, like, a storyline like that for Ahsoka, if for, like, nothing else, just to see, like, what Anakin's reaction would be. You know, coming from someone who does not follow the Jedi code when it comes to having people in his life that he cares about like that. And with a little bit of foreshadowing, next season, we're kind of gonna get that, like, almost right out of the gate. Yeah, man, overall, like I said, this is a really solid episode of the Clone Wars. We get to see the return of Lux Bonteri. We get to see the return of Death Watch. We can see a lot of different cool battles. I feel like this is really, again, another one of those episodes where we see Ahsoka stand out on her own. Anakin's not there to look after her. She's doing this all on her own. We get R2-D2 coming in clutch a lot of the time, too, for all the droid fans out there. I don't think there's much to not like when it comes to this episode. So, you guys, that is going to wrap us up for this week. Next week, you guys, oh man, we've got an exciting arc. The next month's worth of episodes, man. Oh, I'm very excited for. This is one of my favorite arcs in the Clone Wars. Definitely a top 10 arc when it comes to the show. And that is the arc where Obi-Wan has to go undercover as bounty hunter assassin Reiko Hardeen. We start out with the first episode of that arc called Deception. Thank you guys so much for watching. Like and subscribe, and I will see you guys next time.
Obi-Wan!
I got him! Go!
How is he? Obi-Wan? Obi-Wan?